Um, but it's one of those things that I would completely um, disadvise to use in any way,
Yeah. Yeah,
because then
yeah,
where are you going into? Yeah, what portal are you opening? Yeah.
that's the thing, because I've always, these kinds of topics have always been of a great interest to me, all the spooky things. I don't know why. But
Mhm.
actually, when I was very young, I wanted to buy one. I was like 11, and they sell it like whatever,
Mhm.
no? It's like a board game. And my mom said, no
Yeah,
way, we're not doing that. And I said, well, okay.
yeah,
At the time, because
yeah,
I really thought that,
yeah,
ooh, I want to connect with, I mean, I was a child, like I was a
yeah.
teenager, so I didn't know better. But
Yeah.
then starting
Mm,
reading and stuff, I realized like, whoa, like this can be very dangerous because you
mm,
can open the portal to God knows what. And the problem is not
yeah.
opening it. The problem is how do you close
Mm.
it and can you get rid of whatever comes out of that portal that you open, no? Hello, dear Synchronauts. How are you? I'm so happy to be here with you. It's been a while since we had our dear Mike Bais from Circle of Avalon here for a roundtable episode. How are you, Mike? Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very well. Thank you. Yeah, everything is going well. Just returned from some teaching in Austria, but yeah, I'm up and running again. I'm happy to do a podcast again, and not
Yeah.
about the round table as usual on Kabbalah, but another topic today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
busy as a bee, and I'm very happy to have you here again with Mexxicamelot. We missed you, and it's good to be back. And since we are like in the middle of one of the most important, I think, celebrations, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, for many, many countries, which is,
Mm,
as some people know, Halloween, or for example, us in Mexico, Dia de Muertos, the Day of the Dead. And
mm,
also for the Celts, it was like Samhain. That's one of the names for this celebration. I thought it would be nice to do a special program because it's an important moment of the year. It's a liminal energetic moment in the northern hemisphere. And what I mean by this is obviously that it's when the veil's thin during this time of Samhain, Halloween, or the Day of the Dead. And I thought it would be a great idea to talk about the dangers of doing certain rituals or using the Ouija board, for example, during these sacred days, because many people take it as a game, or they think like, oh, this sounds interesting, or maybe they see on TikTok some kind of challenge or whatever, and they do not realize the seriousness of such practices. And since you might have a formation as an exorcist, and you will tell us a little bit more about how you like when I found out about you being an exorcist, I was so surprised. I was like, oh my god, like you have to tell me about it. But I don't know, we talked about it years ago, but now I remember that I'm like, this is a good moment to talk about it. Now, why not share some useful information for anyone who is interested in this topic? And so once again, welcome, dear Mike. And yeah, so just talking a little bit about this thinning of the veil. And I have my hypothesis about why this is such a really good time, good quote unquote, no, to do these kinds of practices or rituals. But I'd like to know, according to your experience and knowledge, why is this time of the year so important, and what goes on energetically? And you prepared also a PowerPoint presentation for us. I'm
I
getting
did.
super excited. I'm so excited about it. And let me tell you something also, Synchronauts. We're recording this. It's almost 11 p.m. my time, October 27th. And for Mike, it's like 5, almost 6 o'clock, right? In the morning
Yeah.
on the 28th. This is the first time that we record. Like normally it's my morning, your afternoon, evening. And now we did the complete opposite, and it's very on topic as well. So uh I'm so excited, and I'm just like, because we haven't had a program in a while. But do you want me to
True.
share the PowerPoint presentation that you
Yeah,
prepared
let's
for
do
us?
it. Yeah, it
Let's
always
begin.
helps to have some.
Yeah, let's begin with that. But yeah, I apologize for my excitement. So the name of the program actually was, or is rather, when the veil opens, from summoning no, to the exorcism. So that's what the special program is about. So do you want me to go on to the next slide?
Yeah, why
And then
not? I mean,
you can tell us a little bit more about no, what goes on in this time of the year. So the floor is yours, dear Mike.
ah, thank you. Well, of course, we have the four seasons, and wherever you are on the planet, you have these changes of, first of all, light. So we are going with the solar light, and so we can see, of course, the rising and the dawning of light throughout the year. And as you rightly said, our ancestors and still people today on the planet, they live and work in conformity with those currents of light.
Yeah.
Also, of course, the lunar light, very important also in regard to what we are talking about. And therefore, in this time of year, setting in of autumn, especially after the autumnal equinox at the 21st, 22nd of September, we're going into this cosmic phase, because this cosmic we experience as something almost personal, and of course it has an effect on our personalities and on the land and everything, but it's a cosmic cycle, and everything within the human body and outside in the world is responding to it. And as the light of the sun decreases, as well, there is a kind of part of our consciousness that decreases with it. Yes. So something is actually dawning or decreasing, and something else is increasing. And that's in relation to what you said about the opening of the veil, or the veil gets thinner between the worlds. And that is, the physical world seems to get less light, literally and figuratively. Mm-hmm. And that changes the mood, so to speak, within our psyche and within our physical body. And there is a particular part of our physicality, which is very subtle, which is called the etheric body, or sometimes called the lunar body. And it is like a lunar sheath over and within our physical body. And it is electromagnetic, literally, in its quality. And in esoteric teachings, it's very common to not just see it as an energy body, because that's what it is. It's a vital body. In Kabbalah, they call it the vital soul, is actually within this particular body. But it's also a memory body. So if you remember something, of course, the device within the head, the cortex, the brain, is a very important mechanism to process memories. But the pictures themselves are actually not in your head. This is just facilitating certain processes. So where do we see these images within ourselves? And esoteric philosophy has an answer to it. I'm not saying it's the only answer, but there you have it. That metaphysically, we see, perceive, and even sense these images. Not everyone sees them per se visually, but sense them within this body, within these reflections. Like looking at the moon, as the moon doesn't have light of its own, of her own, but constantly reflects parts of the original light of the sun in different angles. That's why you have the phases of the moon.
Right.
And the same happens within this body. So these impressions and images and memories are part of this body, as well as the vitality of our physical body. And that body corresponds to the etheric body within the world around us, with the stones, the mineral level, vegetable level, the plants, the animal level, but also the unseen levels in nature, which have, of course, all kinds of classifications, like the fairy world, every subtle entity that has to do, which is like the equivalent of all these natural phenomena. So, and there is a continuous correspondence and communication between that body, which in this time of year is somehow becoming more sensitive, and the etheric body of nature. And some people are still very open to it, and they sense something. Even people who live in the big city, they can sense this happening. And some people are sensitive to certain kind of spirits, entities, so to speak, not per se, you know, uh, evil or good. They are just sensitive to certain impressions or energies, to spaces, um, and they open up willingly, consciously or not, to their surroundings, and it happens through this particular body. Um, so that's a correspondence and communication with nature. That's the first thing that happens.
So I'm gonna have questions apparently, as I usually do,
Yeah, yeah,
because I'm one of those people who has this kind of sensitivity. I'm sorry.
yeah.
So this is because people who are more prone to recognize like what's on the other side of the veil, like in an easier
Mm.
way. These are people who have like their etheric body is a little bit more in tune with that, would you say? Or why do you think that happens, that some people are more open to it than others?
Mm. Yeah, there are really different explanations for that. So, for example, a lot of people who work on the land, farmers, for example, who keep cattle, they are in tune with nature all the time. So they learn to be sensitive to certain aspects of the land, but also like the weather and the changes in the moods of animals and plants and those kind of things. So that's one explanation. Um, but of course, like I said, people in the city can also be sensitive to these kind of things,
Mhm.
and that can be because they are more like feeling types. So they are more open or hypersensitive to whatever is going on outside of them anyway.
Mhm.
And this time of year, therefore, sometimes uh, increases their mood towards and their sensitivity towards the world around them. And that's what you hear sometimes. And because of
Yeah.
the decrease of light, sunlight, some people are affected by that psychologically and emotionally.
Mm.
They feel down and a bit depressed, and that those are two explanations in general.
Yeah. So,
Mm,
a follow-up question. So,
yeah,
if somebody wishes to be more in touch with this other side of the veil,
yeah.
they could do so through practices, I imagine, as well, no? Like maybe meditation or prayer or something like that. Is that possible?
No, of course. I mean, all spiritual esoteric traditions make use of it because this body, like the physical body, works automatically, and we don't have to do anything almost about it consciously. So it is a way of exploration to meditate upon that body, maybe not literally, but at least to dive in your own consciousness and memory to see what's there and or to meditate on that kind of sensitivity
Mhm.
because it's a tool in the human psyche to use it consciously within esoteric work.
Mhm. And another,
They call that. Mhm.
yes. No, please go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, yeah, I mean, they call this, for example, astral projection, those kind of things.
Ah.
If that is wished for, of course, if it has any use in esoteric
Mhm.
work, but that's a technique that some people like to use, and then you have to know how this body works. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that was what I was gonna continue asking. Like,
yeah.
if why would somebody want to, like, in an esoteric tradition, want
Mm,
to tap into these kinds of abilities, no? So why do you think that could
mm.
be useful?
Yeah, well, I think the most healthy way is to really explore the psyche and to explore yourself, to become of self-knowledge, and therefore to explore that body and everything that's in it. In it, you find the world of thoughts, of images, of symbols, of feelings,
Mm.
memory, like I said. and the correspondences between it. And of course your vitality and where your vitality is going. Excuse me. So that is very important. But other more like magical techniques, they try to, for example, master the technique of astral projection or astral traveling, which I think can be useful, but not as a power trip. Not to say like I want to have a peek in somebody else's room, or I have really very spectacular stories about that. People who said I had a look into the catacombs of the Vatican or something, or the library of Alexandria in past times. Well, of course, I'm not saying it's not possible, but on the other hand, yeah, it's a matter of where your priorities lay.
Yeah. And this is a great point you're making, because, well, I mean, there are studies done by certain governments, you know, for example, in the US with the CIA. And I know this because I've seen in 2012, I went to this conference talking about the end of the world, no, the Mayan world back in, well, it wasn't 2010, but they were talking about 2012. And there was a scientist, Russell Targ, and he was talking about how these scientists come together to actually do, they call it remote viewing, but they're talking about practically the same that you're saying, no? So it's interesting to see that there can be like a scientific exploration of those abilities. But at the same time, I mean, I think there is a big responsibility behind people who are delving into these kinds of practices, which is why we decided to talk about these kinds of things in this program, because it might seem very innocent or very delusional in a way that it's very fantastic. Now, as you said, like, oh, I'm going to astral project myself into the past and I'm going to go and see Jesus before he dies, no, for example. Or whatever other thing. I mean, there is truth behind the possibility of accessing that higher knowledge that is somewhere in, there is a cosmic memory and we can access it. But at the same time, there are certain practices that can be very dangerous, because you're delving into realms that they are very powerful, and sometimes we can be very naive, I think. Or
definitely. And you know what, the other thing, Aida, is that the body, the etheric body, corresponds to the lower psychological level of consciousness. In clinical psychology, modern psychology, we call it the ego. So every motive that comes from this body often is generated coming from the ego. So spiritual motives like this often are more ego bound and ego driven than anything else, because outside but also inside of the etheric body you have the multi-layered or colored body called the aura. It has a different quality. That's also the level, the department of the soul. And it's being said that within that body and even beyond the causal body, you have different like layers or sheets or worlds within and around you. There you have all the information that you need at your disposal to know yourself. You don't need to go anywhere. That's a very deep Kabbalistic idea, that you are actually made in the image of the divine. It means everything was given to you. So I think that some people who have matured spiritually after a while, they know that they don't need to go and eavesdrop somewhere or spy on certain ideas in the past or the present or the future even to see what's going on there. But they know the knowledge is within me, the wisdom. And so that's also a very important point to make with these kind of things.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that this like this want or need to explore in such a way is more from an ego side, because also it's like, oh, look how powerful I am. I can look into the future. I mean, and I'm sure that anybody who is in a spiritual path will either meet somebody who claims these things, no?
Yeah.
Or you are in the delusion that you are one of them that can do those kinds of things. I think it's
Yeah.
part of the path, you know. I mean, it's very natural because when we start approaching a spiritual path, we normally begin with a very big ego, because I mean it's even part of the whole show, of the even the groups that get together. It's very ego-centered. It doesn't look like it, but it is. And then as you start advancing, you realize that no, it's not exactly how they sold it to you. And then the real work begins. And then you understand, at least that's what's been happening with me, that my ego is not, and that's another thing that I don't agree with, when they say, oh, you have to get rid of your ego, you have to burn it. No, the ego serves a purpose. We need it to operate in this third dimension. So it's more like you need to make your ego your ally to navigate better this third dimension, but attuned, as you have taught me through Kabbalah, is like, okay, so you're in the Yesodic level, or even in the Malchut, go up, go to Tiferet, and then that's gonna inform but we can't, as long as we are incarnate, we can't get rid of the body, and like we can't get rid of the ego, but we can align it to a higher will or a higher power, and that makes a whole difference in your practices and your understanding of life and your place in creation.
No, that's so important what you're saying, and indeed we have to remember that all these bodies are made in the image of the cosmos, and the cosmos doesn't separate itself and keeps everything in order and in check. That's what cosmos means, of course, order.
Yeah.
So to try to, for example, almost like dissolve this etheric body to reach out to other parts of the world or the universe is often an unhealthy enterprise anyway. You may have heard this, that you also have a lunar cord, which is the etheric body, like an umbilical cord being attached to the physical body. And again, it's the vitality body. So when you die physically, this body dissolves and it will leave behind this casket, which is your physical body. And you can see it happening to people when you witness someone die.
Yeah.
You can see that etheric body, that lunar body, is dissolving gradually. So it's a healthy and natural thing, and respectful to the order of creation, that you keep these bodies in check and you keep them together. And like you said, like the ego, which is a part of this lunar body, to explore it and to integrate it in your spiritual work in a healthy way.
Yeah.
So and apart from this, Ida, as well, which is much more, let's say, a down to earth, daily example. It's also that body with which you can palpate the environment, so you can feel things, people, animals do this all the time. Like the birds in this picture, they navigate on certain electromagnetic currents, and they know exactly where to go. But the same like with lobsters at the bottom of the seabed, and they walk for, I don't know how, hundreds of miles to get somewhere. How do they do it?
Yeah.
And the idea is that they navigate on these electromagnetic currents. And we can do the same, of course. We have it within us. You can walk into a room blindfolded and you can feel the atmosphere. If it's good, if it's not good, whatever it is. And that's another part of this body, not a quality, so to speak. Yeah.
And it always amazes me, now that you're talking about it, that these kinds of things really shows that there is an intelligence behind creation. Like, how do you explain that? No, there is a whole system that's laid out where we all have, every part of creation has its own place. And if you attune into it, then you're going to navigate through it in a very healthy way. But for us humans, and I think maybe that's part of the lunar body as well, now that we're talking about it, because, well, Jose Arguelles talks about it with the dream spell, that we are in this enchantment, no? It's a lunar enchantment because we have forgotten who we really are, and we're living in an artificial time. So it's kind of like a lunar delusion, because it's like we forget our true nature our true nature and who we are. And because we have no idea of how to be a real human, we just act upon programming and subconscious loyalties. And that's what really, because as you said, we all should be able, because it's in our genes, in our nature, to go into a room blindfolded and navigate it, like really sense it and be a part of it. But I mean, me included, I don't know, maybe 99%, 99.9% of us, if we try to do that, we would fail miserably because we are so out of tune from that. No?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, this is what, for example, a newborn baby experiences, because it has this little tiny, let's say, almost incompetent body with senses that are not very operative. There's no developed ego yet. But this etheric body, this moon body, knows exactly what it needs. And the instincts that is being harbored within this, called the nefesh in Kabbalah. So that's the urge to eat and to grow, to feed, to excrete, whatever it is, all necessary to survive. That's also within this lunar body. And the baby knows exactly what it needs. And the etheric body of mother corresponds with this. So there's a major communication going on at that stage of development in the human body. And you can see that it's so necessary, and it will never leave us. I mean, it's still there. You still have that urge to eat, of course, and sleep and whatever it is. And like you said, it's a part of nature, and therefore we have to take it on board, but not let it rule the show, but to discipline it, that it is a part of us, but at the same time, to learn how to use it properly.
That's it. That's it.
I hope that makes sense what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but
you absolutely nailed it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, and at the same time, the thinning of the veils this part of year, we can also go to a next slide, because it still corresponds to what we are talking about. Is like an attunement to this time of year, because within the etheric field, we may also pick up, receive, or send out certain currents of consciousness, information towards those etheric fields that are not any longer living in the physical world. So these are like echoing parts of the ego of other people. And of course, one of the big questions would be, is it desirable, is it wise to contact these, I call it always echoes, like reverberations of deceased people who are no longer there? In most serious, I would say, sources and teachings, it's being said very simply: leave the living to the living and the dead to the dead.
Right.
So that's the most direct answer towards spiritism, Ouija boards, and those kind of things. Is that unless there is a need for assistance and help for these kind of spirits, because of accident and trauma, confusion, whatever it is, these remnants of the deceased person need to be given direction back to where they came from, go back to their proper realm, which is actually the whole etheric collective field, and dissolve, because that's what happens, because that part of us really dies and should die. It should dissolve within the etheric field, go back into the collective memory. And if that doesn't happen, sometimes it is useful also within the whole work, for example, as an exorcist, to make sure that everything comes to rest in peace.
Yes.
So that's the attunement to the field, in the sense of attuning to that part of the human psyche which is not incarnated any longer.
So the idea is that, or that's how the system, let's call it that way, that's how the system works now. We disincarnate, we die, And when we die, it's our personality that is going to dissolve, and our, I don't know how to say it. Correct me, or guide me rather. It's the soul or the spirit that goes. There is a specific part in the tree, in Jacob's ladder, that we go when we disincarnate. Can you tell us a little bit about it? I always forget the name. I should know it by now because we've talked a lot about it. But
don't worry.
We go to this place. Is this the place where our personality dissolves and then we get ready for our next adventure?
Yeah, no, and it is quite a common thing that we need to repeat for ourselves and for each other, that, what are we talking about within these levels and these different names that we have given to the different stages of consciousness within us. So the physical level, our body made up of 4 elements, they return to where they came from. So earth to earth, water to water, etc. It seems to be quite straightforward. Then the etheric body, the lunar body that we have been talking about, also goes back to where it came from, to the proper realm of the etheric field, which is not just around the body, within the body, but which is all around you. So it is between you and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
In it lives the ego. So the ego, indeed, it's not good news for most people, but it doesn't survive. So the temporary makeup of, called the personality, the ego, is not going to last. It lasts as long as the physical body.
Mm-hmm.
Because the physical body, the earth and the moon and the lunar body are like an inseparable team for the time being of the incarnation.
Mm-hmm.
So that will dissolve as well. So we say goodbye when somebody dies from the body and the ego.
Mm-hmm.
If we know the soul, which is the next level, which is still psychological, but it is like the tilting point between the psyche and the spirit. And in Kabbalah, for example, they said that is the vehicle of consciousness which migrates from one lifetime to the next. And it's a vehicle of consciousness and of your experienced wisdom in life that goes to the next life.
Mm-hmm.
The level of spirit doesn't truly become incarnate, so it cannot die.
Okay.
It is transpersonal, as in Kabbalah we call it the Briatic level. So it's the world or the level where all the incarnations come from.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not affected by life and death cycle per se.
Mm-hmm.
It's not eternal, but it lasts for a very, very long time. So, and of course, then you have the divine level, but that's a different order altogether. So the soul is the thing that migrates from place to place. So if a body doesn't decompose properly, we may help it. For example, most of the time, nature doesn't have a problem and the body goes anyway.
Yeah.
So, for example, in this time of year, the body has a tendency not to grow that fast. So on the hormonal level, the electric level within the nervous system, for example, it works differently somewhat than, for example, in springtime and in summer.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And people, not everyone, I mean, I'm a very wintry autumn person, so I don't mind this different chemistry within the body.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people don't like to turn within, and and nature becoming more dark and gloomy, and we are asked actually to go within. So these are the different levels, and the soul is interesting in all of the cycle because it wants to learn. It is interested in the development of our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
I stop it with this.
No, yeah, but
Yeah.
where is the place? The treasure house of, or house treasure of what's the name? I always forget.
No, very good. The treasure house of images is within the etheric body.
Okay.
That's the body of continuous reflections, like in a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's also temporal and mortal. The treasure house of souls is of the spiritual dimension. That's where the soul goes when it leaves behind the physical and the etheric body.
Okay.
So it divests from it,
Mm-hmm.
and the soul returns also to this proper housing this place, it's being said, where it awaits a next time and moment, which is, well, perfect, auspicious for the next incarnation. That's the idea. Yeah, it's not sometimes being like almost being talked about similar or in parallel to heaven, but that's a bit too general to my taste. But anyway, it is a place, a spiritual place where we gather, sometimes also in soul groups, and we await a next moment for incarnation. And although you don't remember it, we have done this, and the whole of humanity has done this to a certain degree.
Yes.
And the more that you have matured as a soul, the more you may remember what your choices were. This is called destiny. You may have an idea. I remember what I came to do here because it was my choice actually to come back here. And then the physical vehicle and the etheric body, the whole mortal part of ourselves becomes also a vehicle for that purpose.
Yeah. We'll have to do a special program talking about the difference between destiny and fate, because that's a whole other animal by itself.
No, definitely.
But
it is.
But it is being woven into what we're talking about today, because I mean, coming back to the celebration of Halloween, Samhain, and the Day of the Dead, for example, there are many parallels between them, and it's no surprise that these festivals are taking place in this moment of the year because of what you just explained. Now we're in this moment in between the fall and the winter. We're beginning our descent into well, we're going to visit Mr. Pluto, no? We're visiting Mr. Hades. We're going into the underworld to prepare for the next cycle. As you say, it's a time to go inside, to go within. And that is why, for example, we need certain rituals. And also that's why we have Christmas when we have Christmas. We need these rituals with light, celebrating life, but also recognizing the cycle of life and death, the circle of life, as they call it. And to me, it's very powerful that because I can feel it. I don't know, I have that sensitivity. I know that not everybody does, but I can feel it in my body when we're approaching this moment of the year. I can feel that something is switching, like there's something in the air, in nature, everywhere. And for example, here in Mexico, when we put the altar, actually now it's beginning to evolve and change as well, the way we're celebrating in Mexico. Because now they say that it begins on October 27, when I didn't remember that, but supposedly October 27 is when our pets come. No, they come and visit us from the beyond. So the pets come on the 27th. And then every day is for a special kind of death, for example, until we put the big altar on the 1st and on the 2nd of November to remember. On the 1st of November, it's for the babies and young children. And and teenagers. And then the 2nd is for the rest of adults, no, grown-ups who have passed away, and for the ancestors.
Right.
But something that is very important is that moment to try to connect with our ancestors, to recognize the lineage in a way, and to still feel close to our loved ones who were so important for us who have informed who we are. And so we make this display. It's more obviously for the living than for the dead, no? But however, let me tell you something very particular. And maybe I have told you this previously, because we have known each other for a few years now. But when we put the altar and we put food, because we cook the food that people liked when they were alive. That's the thing, no? Like they come and they visit us, so we prepare, I don't know, taquitos, or pozole, whatever is like the typical thing. So whatever they like in life. So my experience is we put that food during the day, and then the following day, for example, beverages, they lose the taste. Like if you try to drink, I don't know, if you left a beer or a soda or whatever, it will have no more flavor from one day to the next. Or
Yeah.
from one day to the next, it will have mold on it.
Right.
Which is
Yeah.
not, how do you explain that? Or they say the food has no more taste. And it's not like it's super hot, like, oh, maybe you left it outside and obviously you have mold, but no, like it's very cool. It's not so hot. So we say, if our loved ones come and visit us, then the food will, like, they take away the taste and the smell, and it really happens. And it's like something so incredibly magical that we want to relate with those who are in the beyond. Although you mentioned something very important right now, which I think many people are not, I wasn't aware of that after a person dies, I mean, they're not going to stay in the personality forever. It's going to go away.
Nope.
So for example, if my mom has been gone now this year, it's going to be 7 years, I think. So if I try to summon the spirit of my mother, she probably won't be able to come anyways, because that personality that she was when she was my mom, it's not there anymore.
No.
So
not in the literal sense. No.
Not in the literal sense. So if I try to, I don't know, make a ritual or whatever to bring her back to life or whatever, it wouldn't work anyways, because there's nothing to attract from her, right? So I don't know if you could tell us a little bit more about this this thing, though, that maybe people are trying to reconnect. And I think that they do send you still, like, I still receive messages from my mom, through animals or synchronicities. I know that she's there, but if I try to, like, bring her back, like, I know that there's no way. So I don't know if you can tell us a little bit more about this phenomenon, so that people can be aware of how, after a loved one has passed, how we can still keep in touch, and what is not realistic. Because many people might be tempted to go into the Ouija board or do some kind of rituals during Halloween or whatever, because they're so desperate for a connection with a loved one that they can open this portal. So I don't know if you can tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. And first of all, I wanted to say, to stress that these times of year is also a time of opportunity in that sense, because it's the particular season of death and regeneration, and wisdom coming from death and regeneration. So death is not just goodbye, it is also a process of generating wisdom within you. And therefore the ancestral line is maybe more apparent within the autumn and winter time, because you go within, and therefore these kind of festivals and days are within this time of year, like All Souls and All Saints. And they are important because we can remember and align again to the wisdom of our ancestral line. It doesn't mean that they are there, of course, physically they're not, but also their ego is not there. But what they have left, their heritage, their wisdom, that is still there. Where we find it is in our own etheric memory, because those impressions still live within you. And you can, again, attune to it. That's the healthy part of it. That is the remembrance of the lineage, which is like almost standing behind you, and of which you are a part. But first of all, to think that indeed you are dealing with the personality, him or herself, is unhealthy and undesirable in serious spiritual work. And in the case when indeed a deceased person is still there, because like we talked about before just yet, the etheric body and the ego hasn't completely dissolved and still lingering and still amongst us, that needs to be addressed. It needs to be dealt with. I, as a therapist and exorcist, actually, of course, at the same time, I had many of these examples. I guided a woman who had cancer, and she was like 70, and she knew that she was going. So I guided her towards her death. I knew her husband, and I was at the spot when she said to him, like, His name was Jan, like John. So she
Mm.
said, John, um, you have to let me go, because
Yeah.
she knew that he was completely devoted to her. So it was a
Oh.
very emotional
Mm.
moment, of course. And he said, yes, of course I will. Eventually, she died. And then a few months later, I saw him coming into my practice because he wasn't doing well, as you can imagine. And his whole body was full of tension. So I did some treatment with him. And gradually, I talked with him about, how do you spend your days? And he was going to the graveyard 2 or 3 times a day,
Wow.
every day. And it took me about a week, I think. And I said, Jan, I think I have to remember you that you made a promise. And he said, what do you mean? I said, to your wife, you promised to let her go, and you're not doing it at all. You're
Mhm.
keeping her here. And then he said, yes, you're right. And of course, I understand it. But it's unnatural and not a good thing.
Yeah.
And but you can still keep the memories. You don't have to keep the person there, but you can keep the memories in a healthy way. Um, and of course, the emotions are very understandable
Yeah.
in it. But that's the difference when you summon through an altar the idea or the intelligence, the loving memories and the wisdom of your ancestors. That is perfectly fine.
Mhm.
I think it is even something that we shouldn't lose, because everything now, almost these days, is like we are dependent upon the internet, on AI, and all this kind of intelligence. But it doesn't teach us much spiritual things. But our
Yes.
ancestral line, almost like going back in time,
Mhm.
is extremely valuable.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm a favor of keeping these kind of days and festivities alive and in the true nature and the memory of what they are, what they represent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everything that you're saying right now made me think about talking about the circle of life, uh,
yeah,
about the Lion King, the original animated
yeah,
movie, when Simba connects with his father, with
yeah,
Mufasa.
mm,
But now what you're saying, it makes so much sense to me. It's like he wasn't really talking to the spirit of his father. He was
yeah,
talking to that reflection of the memory of Mufasa that lived within him.
mm,
So he
mm,
was connecting to his lineage. So that's a healthy thing to do. Like
mm,
maybe
yeah,
not say, "Oh, what would my mom have said, or my dad, or
mm,
whomever," but
yeah,
rather like from the experience that I had from this person, and maybe go within and say, "What would this person would have told me? No, how would
yeah.
they have guided me through this?" And then you connect to that knowledge that is in you, and then you can
That's
have
exactly
this guidance, no, instead of being completely dependent upon that, no, that I should go to somebody who reads the tarot cards, for example,
yeah,
to see like, please tell me what would my mom have done, or what would my
mm,
deceased wife or husband would have done, because it's
yeah,
not very healthy. And now it brings me to
mm,
another question for you, so that people will be aware, because if you ask me, I do think that
yeah,
if people die in certain situations where around them one family member or loved one is just like crying a lot, or like
mm,
this example you gave us, the husband that doesn't let go of the wife, does that
yeah.
make the person really like stay stuck into this 3D realm because they're worried, or do they leave anyway? And like, I don't know if you understand my question, like.
Of course, yeah, no, and the examples are so individual, so you
Mhm.
never know what's going to happen. So
Okay.
some people who are leaving, they leave in
Mhm.
spite of the grief
Mm.
and the attachment of the people who are left behind.
Mhm.
But we have to remember, of course, that rites of passage are meant not for us who are left behind, but for the one who is going on their journey.
Mhm.
So we make an effort to make sure that the soul uh, goes back to where it came from and the etheric body dissolves, etc.
Mhm.
So it is a transpersonal effort, a rite of passage.
Mhm.
If the ego is too much involved, we run the risk of doing exactly the opposite.
Mm.
So that the individual examples are always to be taken individual. Um, so you never know what happens. You understand? Dynamic is always very um, dependent upon the situation.
Yes.
But for example, a very yeah intense example is I know some people who have worked on the concentration camps here in Europe, in
Wow.
Germany, in Poland, etc., in Auschwitz, and they
Mhm.
go there, and some of these people, one person I know quite well, a lady, and she's very psychic, and
Mhm.
she has been trained esoterically quite well,
Mhm.
um, and she goes there and she picks up certain of the remnants, I call it, of that field, the etheric field that is still hanging there
Yeah.
and it needs to dissolve. And you can imagine, of course, because of all the traumatic experiences
Of
there,
course.
it's more than a person. It's a whole field of experience there that needs to be sometimes looked after. Yeah.
Mhm. It makes me think you are right. No, I think that it makes sense that it should be as individual as any case, because on the one hand, when you're grieving the loss of a loved one, and when
Mm.
people tell you don't cry because you're gonna make them be stuck here, it's very
Mm. Yeah,
frustrating when they tell you that, no? Because at
I
the same
know.
time,
Yeah.
they're like stopping your grieving process. So in my
Mhm.
experience, I've been thinking like, if I need to cry, I'm gonna cry. And if
Yeah.
if they can't tolerate it, no, the other person who is dead, if they can
Yeah.
tolerate my tears, like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna cry, and you can go on
Yeah.
your merry way, like, that's okay, no? On the
Yeah.
one hand, I think it's healthy to not stop the tears because you don't want the loved one to get stuck here, because it's really
Yeah.
even not one's responsibility.
Mm.
But on the other hand, um, I know also, because this happened to me when my mother was dying, actually, and we
Mm.
had a grief counselor that came over to talk to us, and he was a nurse, and he was giving us a service of nurse. Uh,
Yeah.
he had this conversation with us, telling us that he knew of people who were on the verge of dying. They were really, really
Mm.
sick, and they
Mm.
couldn't die because they had some pending issue with a loved one. And until
Yeah.
that person would come and talk to them, then
Yeah.
settle things, and that person could die.
Yeah.
And so he told us to talk to our mother,
Yeah.
and to let her know that it was okay, that she could leave. And that's exactly like she listened to that.
Mm.
Like, she was kind of in a coma, she was kind of asleep,
Mm.
but she could
Mm.
listen. So she
Yeah.
listened to the whole conversation. And when this person left, and I'm so grateful to him, by the way,
Yeah.
I told my mom, you know what, if you need to go, by all means, like, don't wait anymore. I don't want you
Yeah.
to suffer. We'll take care of
Yeah.
whatever comes.
Ah.
And I'm gonna miss you like hell, but I love
Yeah.
you, and just go in peace. And she
Yeah.
passed away a matter of hours after this conversation. So I
Yeah.
know it's
Very
very
important.
powerful that when
Mm.
somebody's about to transition, to let them
Yeah.
know that it's okay to go, even though inside you're
Yeah.
like like being broken in a million pieces.
Yes,
And
of
then
course.
when they're gone, you can grieve as much as you want, because I mean, it's inevitable. Like, you reach a stage where it's inevitable. That's like,
Mm.
that's what's gonna
Yeah.
happen anyway. So I think
Certainly. Yeah.
it's also important for people to know this, that if they feel that they have something pending with a loved one,
Mm.
using a Ouija board or whatever is not really the right way to fix things.
No, no.
No.
No, no. No, it's a wonderful example. So thank you for sharing that
Mhm.
with me and with all of us, of course, who are listening. And yeah, that's very important. And then you can see that our personal emotions can be involved in the whole matter. They don't have to be excluded. You can, in a proper way, you can include all of it, because you can imagine that if we're dying, the thing that we have identified with the body and this etheric body with the personality within it is most of the time terrified to go
Oh,
because
yes.
we think from that level that that is all we are.
That's it.
So it is, and that those instincts that where we were born with, the baby that I was telling you about, is
Mhm.
fighting its life off most of the time. Some people, of course, they are so sick they want to go, but otherwise, there's always fear involved. So
Yeah.
that with loving care and at the same time also the guidance, like you have done, and said, well, we'll take care of everything here below. So go in peace, and I love you, and I will be very sad. So these things, I believe, can coexist together in a healthy way,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
because the emotions of us can still also contribute to the passing on of what happens. Yeah.
In a loving way, definitely.
Of course, yeah, that it is for the person, not only egoistically for yourself, but
Hmm.
yeah, and without trying to hold on to the relationship in a literal way. So that's very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's the same like in a sense, we remember these times also that we are dying all the time.
Mm.
So at the
Oh,
moment,
yes.
physically, psychologically, this is an ongoing process. We may think it's a linear process of you being born someday, you will die. But in between, this beautiful intelligence of the body and the psyche is not staying the same. It's always transforming and transforming. And of course, that's the cycle of life and death. And mythologies have described this, like you said, going into the underworld of Hades or Pluto
Mhm.
is like the daughter of Demeter, Persephone, and she has to go into the earth, a time of stillness and meditation,
Mhm.
and nature dies, and after a while she comes up, and Hades lets her go, and then springtime kicks in.
Yeah.
And this is the same within our bodies and in our psyche. And some people, they respect it and they say, this is a time of opportunity. So autumn and winter, the time of death. And what is dying? What do I need to leave behind? What do I need to meditate upon? And of course, it's a time of stillness.
Yes.
So, just try to shut up for a moment with your ego as a person and say, what does my inner intelligence has to tell me? That's also a kind of dying. Meditation is a metaphorical psychological way of dying.
Yeah.
That's also involved majorly within this time of year.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes,
Mhm.
yes. Definitely.
Yeah. Mm.
And it's important to use these opportunities, energetic opportunities within the cycle of the year, within
Yeah.
the wheel of the year, to tune into what the gifts it's giving us. Not right now, it's a moment to go within, as you say, and connect to
Mm.
that eternal change, no,
Yeah.
because we are changing continuously, and that means a death, no.
Mm.
We stop being babies to become toddlers. There is one death, and toddlers becoming children, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
it's a continuous cycle of change, and I think it's very necessary and very good, and especially for those who haven't had the experience of being there for a loved one while they're transitioning, which is a very
Mm.
sacred moment.
Yeah.
And these rituals prepare you for that in a way, or these meditations can help you prepare
Mm.
not only for your own transcendence, but also like to accompany other people around. And
Yeah.
if you do it right, because that was my experience, it can be, yes, it is a um, a very sad moment when you have to say
Mm.
goodbye to someone you love when they're transitioning.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it can be such a sacred and beautiful, loving moment that can transform you.
Mm. Yeah.
And I mean, this could be also another topic for another day, no? Talking about
Yeah.
having dignified death. Many people do not have that opportunity to have a peaceful death surrounded by loved
Yeah.
ones at home. So,
Mm.
so it's important to keep these rituals, like the Day of the Dead or others that are healthy, to
Yeah.
help us have our psyche in the correct place, so that when these moments come, we can be ready to navigate them in a healthy way and not fall into the traps of what this program is about, precisely not trying to use these other kinds of practices to try to maybe make things right, or try to, I don't know, face something of the past, because it can be very dangerous. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why, for example, you have these beautiful books in the world, the books of the dead, the Tibetan, the Celtic book, the Egyptian book of the dead, and probably more than that. And they all describe the journey. So it's a passage, it's a movement. It's not an ending, and a transformation from one state into another. And yeah, it's a very promising, hopeful perspective on the human soul. But of course, if you have no access to the soul, some people become not hopeful, but desperate, and they grope and they reach out for the thing that is left behind. They don't want to let go of that future memory. Sorry, past memory. So they cling on to this. Yeah, so that is when you get these spiritism gatherings of Ouija and calling in spirits all kinds of ways. Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'm not sure if the next slide is about it, but we can have a look if you
that's
want.
what I was gonna tell you about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So here we have an image of the physical body and the etheric imprint. It's just an idea. But this is what happens, for example, probably and most likely in sleep. So the lunar body is going on a little trip. That's dreaming. It doesn't mean that you're really going walkabout and you're leaving the physical body, but within that etheric field, you're having a new kind of adventure, because the normal ego from our nervous system is here in the prefrontal cortex, and it's running the show during the day. But that goes to sleep together with the physical body at night. And then the unconscious, the subconscious, which is related to the lunar body or the etheric body, is has an opportunity to show itself and to be more dominant in that sense. That's the dream world. That's also the world of fairy tales and mythology. So our dreams, maybe you can look at it as like a private myth. Not in all cases. Sometimes it's processing the events of the day or the last few weeks or months or years.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes personal dreams, and sometimes you have more collective dreams, mythological dreams. So that's another thing in esoteric work, to pay attention what you're dreaming, because that's information that may be very useful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. And again, everything in nature has this etheric field, from the mineral, the vegetable, to the animal levels. Everything which is incarnated has this field. And in that subtle field, some people see and feel and sense other things, especially within the twilight. When you go in nature, you go into the forest,
yes,
very early morning, or when it's dawning, the light in the evening time. Then they say sometimes the forest go walkabout, and they become alive. Not the
yes.
forest physically, but the spirits, the nature spirits within it. And for some people, it's just as normal as reading the newspaper. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. If you don't have anything to say yourself, we'll ask about
No,
it. Yeah.
that's it's very, like, this is interesting because everything that we've been talking about, like, it's already, like, it's coming now in the illustration. So yeah, so I don't know if you can put into a little bit more context, like these images with what we just already discussed.
Yeah, well, this is a very simplistic image of the different bodies. So deep within if you look at the left picture, but it doesn't matter. You can also look at the other one. You see two examples of a physical body, and then what is around it is the etheric body. They have made a distinction in one picture about the physical auric body. I'm not sure what they mean with this, but in the right one, you can see etheric body immediately around the physical body. So that's what we have been talking about. So then you have an impression. And the astral body, like I said already, that is around and within the etheric and the physical body. So it's like layer on layer, like one of those Russian dolls.
Yes.
One thing within the other. They're not separate from each other. They are around, but within one another. That's very important to remember. They are integrated. Although we may not be conscious of these layers, but they are operative altogether. So around the astral body, which is the level of the soul, higher emotional intelligence, self-consciousness, there you have the causal body, which is almost like a part of a spiritual body, where things of causation are present. So the level of the spirit is where things are being initiated or caused, and a deeper mental body around it. It's not the thinking body in the sense of cognition, but we're talking about spiritual intelligence here. And then the spiritual body, and then around it that glow of that hue of violet, purple. That's the Buddhistic Christ body, which encompasses all of these bodies, includes them.
Yeah.
And there's a law that says only from a level higher you can witness and you can experience the level below it or within it. So the physical body can only experience itself. The etheric body can experience itself and the physical body. The auric body can experience itself and the etheric body and the physical body. So growing consciously into these bodies is also growing in consciousness and in experience.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a hierarchy of wisdom within it and a hierarchy of consciousness and integration. So here we see the Kabbalistic world, but in a different way, different layers.
This is very practical, like the way that you're explaining it, because I'm sure that many people have come across these images before. But now with the context that you're giving us, it makes a lot more sense, because in the end, what we're talking about, trying to connect with what is beyond, no, the third dimension, it has to do with the interaction of these bodies, these lighter bodies, so to speak, these subtle bodies with the subtle bodies of other entities or even Earth itself. So that makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, this time of year, as a part of our program today, the podcast, is going back into the Earth and the intelligence of the etheric field, the lunar body, together with the Earth, doesn't mean that you're going away from the deep intelligence of the spiritual bodies on the outside, but we are putting more emphasis on what is going on there. And of course, that's another way of looking at it. The outer layers of these bodies or worlds are having their influence deeply upon the lunar and physical bodies. As a matter of fact, as they say in Kabbalah, these interior bodies of the physical incarnate body, they are like an amalgam, a densification of the spirit. So all of the knowledge, eventually, all of the wisdom of the outer bodies, all these beautiful spiritual glowing bodies, they're inside of us. So going into the etheric field, dying to yourself in this time of year, and going inwards is a wisdom journey.
Definitely.
And as many gods and certain people have showed in history, in religion and also in mythology is that if you don't die to something, you cannot be born or resurrected to another stage. So this time of year as a symbol, but also as a practice, is extremely important in our spiritual quest.
Yeah. Now there is
Yeah.
one of the sentences in the pattern on the trestle board. The last one actually says, "The kingdom of spirit is incorporated in my flesh." I think that because I know it in Spanish, but
Yeah.
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 So that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense now when you're explaining it to me. Like, of course, how can
Yeah.
it be incorporated in my flesh? Well, through the more etheric parts, no, until it becomes so dense that it can be manifested in this world. So that
Yes,
makes a lot of
exactly.
sense to me
Yeah.
right now.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's something I always stress, and we shouldn't forget. Otherwise, we are still falling easily into the trap that the light, God, spirit is up there somewhere outside of us, and we need to reach out, and it's
Yeah.
definitely not within us. That's a part of the heritage of the Western religious world throughout a few thousand years, and it hasn't served us much. We are living in a separate, divided universe where God is somewhere else, and we are
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
But these kind of simple drawings, these deep mystical philosophical ideas say exactly the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good reminder, definitely.
Yeah, I think so.
Mhm.
So look
Ready
at
for
one
the next
more.
one? Yeah.
Yeah, I am. Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have I thought to include this image like an opening into other worlds.
Mhm.
Um, so the cradle and the grave are both openings to another world. So you're being received on both ends of the portal or the door. So we're stepping over a threshold when you're born, and it's being sometimes a bit simply put to say you die to your spirit and you incarnate within the flesh. And at birth. And the same happens, of course, but in reverse order when you die. So you divest from the physical body and you are coming into birth within the spiritual realm. That again seems to be um, like a dualistic stance to flesh and to spirit. So within certain esoteric traditions like Kabbalah, um, they attempt to dissolve this dichotomy, this idea of dualism between spirit and and our incarnation, the flesh, and therefore to see life as a continuum of spirit within our incarnation. And this is one of the secret teachings of Christ, I would say. You know, the kingdom of God is within the earth, like you said, in a different way with the trestle board. Um,
Yeah.
so life itself, from birth to death, is a continuum of an incarnated identity with spirit at the same time. So to find the Edenic or paradisical identity of ourselves is the task at hand here and now. And that is also part of our of this time of year, of autumn winter time, to die to this idea that we are separate and to come into the light of life, which is in death. So that metaphorical, mythological death is something that is being asked for in these times of year. So the celebration of the ancestors is very important. The celebration of nature, who is dying willingly for us to in order that we have life again, that we can eat plants and whatever it is. That's worth a celebration, of course. It's a gift. It's a huge miracle that this happens.
Yeah.
And if we don't realize that, well, we should realize it again because it's not a normal thing. And for us spiritually important to understand that the portal is not just a way in and out. It seems to be that way in a very simplistic way, but life is a continuum within spirit. And I think that's one of the most important things that I wanted to say with this little image here.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we forget that as well. I mean, they're linked, they're they come hand in hand.
Exactly. And of course, another way of looking at a portal and opening them is what you were talking about when people want to, open a certain gateway into into the next world or whatever it's called to make contact with their deceased loved ones. And that's not exactly the same what we are talking about here. That's not the same portal as the portal of life and death. That's a self-constructed psychological etheric portal, and nobody really knows what they're going to get. So you actually open your front door, and you say, well, I hope that my mother or father or my grandfather mother is coming to walk in, and you just go to sleep. And at night, you never know who's going to enter the door.
Yeah,
it's very unlikely that those people will come in because they're dead. So, yeah, that's a simplistic way of putting it, but I think it's at the same time also quite accurate.
Yeah, very accurate, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Also because the motive emotionally behind such an operation of spiritism is often quite unstable. So it comes from an unstable mind and psyche, and often quite emotionally imbalanced. So you can imagine that these kind of states of emotions and psychological disharmony and unbalance attracts other things.
Yeah, definitely.
That are interested in an unstable psyche, and let's have a look there. What's going on there? Maybe it can benefit me. And then you get exactly the opposite of what you want.
Yeah.
And certain of these entities, they dress themselves up.
Oh, yes.
The illusion of the one that you want to summon into your life. And best case scenario is that people are self-deluded, and they construct within their own minds the communication they wish to have with others. And of course, these are the frauds and con people who function as a medium between worlds sometimes. I'm not saying all people are frauds, but there are enough running around, which are, of course, very damaging people all around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
and some of them are not
dangerous.
Yeah, some people are not evil. They don't have an evil intent, but they themselves are just delusional.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one has to be mindful about it, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So do you want to look at the next one
before
sure. We start
let's do it, because
let's talk a little bit about this, because obviously one program will not be enough, but people will be like, well, you promised you were gonna talk about summoning and exorcism, so maybe just give a little bit of a preview of what we're gonna talk in our next program to continue the topic, because obviously this is our main point of interest, but we need the background before we can move into the hot topic, no? So tell us, why did you choose this image?
Well, of course, first of all, because you said in the introduction of your program, also when we talked about it, that this is one of the ways that one can try to come into contact with other people. There are different methods all over the place. Some are very folkloristic, dependent upon culture. But we have them all over the place. So this is just one example, but it's quite a popular example, I would say, and also many horror movies made with this theme of the Ouija board. So it's actually the board of calling in spirits or evocation. So evoking spirits, which is like in serious magical work is being done as well, but then with the knowledge of what one is evoking and with a proper preparation.
Yes.
So this Ouija thing is so open to suggestion to the people at hand, and often it's used as a recreation
Oops, sorry.
thing. Oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So the mindset of the people who are going into it um, is often not very helpful for what is going to happen.
Oh,
So, for
okay.
example, yeah. So, for example, often these things are being initiated to say, let's do this and see what comes out of it. That thing in itself is very unwise, and from an innocent perspective, they will get no answer or some answers, and they just leave it and they go about their business and nothing happens. But it may be an entrance also for other things. And I don't think it has brought many people an authentic experience of a deceased person. Hopefully not, because it's unnatural. In the most severe examples, it has brought something else up, which is, we could say the whole hierarchy of existence can be truly evil. But I think what we have also seen, for example, here in the Netherlands, we have like a paranormal department of university. We had it since the 70s.
Wow,
And
I
a
didn't
very
know that.
famous, very famous man from actually the city that I live in and his daughter, they were known to be paranormally gifted in different ways. So he contributed and collaborated with the university, and they also looked at these kind of things. And the value of it on a spiritual level is not very high. Let's put it that way. Because the only thing that you can do as one person or several persons is to come or to a yes/no answer, or to maybe a word or a name, and it doesn't really contribute to any spiritual knowledge. So it says Ouija, mystifying oracle. These names are so easily used in these, these departments of the New Age. And it often leads more to confusion than to integration of
Definitely.
people. Yeah. So I have myself no experience of doing it because, of course, it's not of interest to me. But it's one of those things that I would completely disadvise to use in any way.
Yeah.
Because then
Yeah,
where are you going into? Yeah, what portal are you opening? Yeah.
that's the thing, because I've always, these kinds of topics have always been of a great interest to me, all the spooky things. I don't know why. But actually, when I was very young, I wanted to buy one. I was like 11, and they sell it like whatever, no? It's like a board game. And my mom said, no
Yeah.
way, we're not doing that. And I said, well, okay.
Yeah.
At the time, because I really thought that,
Yeah.
I want to connect with, I mean, I was a child, like I was a teenager, so I didn't know better. But then starting reading and stuff, I realized like, whoa, like this can be very dangerous because you can open the portal to God knows what. And the problem is not opening it. The problem is, how do you close it, and can you get rid of whatever comes out of that portal that you open, no? And so I've never done it. I was once close to some friends who were playing with it, but I said, I'm not playing with you, like you do you. I'm not involving myself in that because I'm not doing that, no? Because I was aware of the dangers. But I just remembered as well, and maybe I can try to find one of an image of this board and share it with you, and maybe we can add it to the presentation. But somebody made a Jesus board recently. I don't know, a year or two ago. I think, I don't know if you heard about it, but it's like a Ouija board, but it's like to communicate with Jesus and to communicate with God. And I was like, are you kidding me? Are you like, what are you doing? No. So I mean, it's basically the same thing, but for Jesus, no? So these things are very like easy to get, no, but it's really, really dangerous to like use this. And
And I think it's a lack of understanding that all the tools that you need to contact anything, or also the highest wisdom coming from a Buddha or a Christ, is within you.
That's right.
And for example, as they say in a famous book, the Corpus Hermeticum, you first have to find what you're looking for within you. So if you're looking for spirit, first you have to find a fragment of spirit within you and then go in search for it. So if you're looking for deceased people or even for devils or demons, then probably you have found something within yourself, a spark of that darkness, which well, makes you to go in search for these kind of things. So it's like a poor substitute, these kind of systems, to get into your own psyche, because serious evil will not come through this is of course what you see in horror movies, but the great princes of evil like an Asmodee or a Baphomet, they will not be interested in these people who do these kind of tricks. So that is where I would say I can relativate these kind of free time leisure ways of dealing with spiritism, but it may mess up your own psyche there and invoke the darkness which is within your own psyche, and there are better ways to do that. To go into your own shadows. This is not the way of doing it. And I've known a group who have done this, actually one in Holland and one in the UK. And some people really became so frightened, whatever happened, if it was suggestion, and they're still dealing with it. So that can be a danger. Not because there was really something coming through, but just the phenomena of that one person may have moved the glass or the pointer, and that would be enough for someone to a very bad experience. So again, I wouldn't recommend it at all.
So we're talking about there's not only like a spiritual danger, but also a psychological danger.
Much more psychological than spiritual at all. Like I said, real evil and it's not attracted by these kind of things at all. And I think that diseased people are not attracted by these kind of things, and they shouldn't be. And again, you don't know what you're into. You have no idea of fighting, and it's so open to suggestion that, again, you don't know what's coming. But it's mainly a psychological issue that may be coming forth out of these games.
I hadn't thought about it that way.
Not any higher than the etheric field that we are talking about.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it that way, but that makes sense. And so before closing officially, just can you give us a little bit of a story maybe of, have you ever had to perform any kind of exorcism related to a person using the Ouija or doing some kind of ritual that is similar to this?
Not from the background of the Ouija board, but people do all kinds of rituals in daily life that summon or evoke things within them that are not very healthy. So this seems a very simple example, but there are people, for example, who evoke fear within their lives all the time. They open a portal for fear, that's not an Ouija board activity, but in a sense it is.
Yeah.
And some of these people just don't know that they are evoking the same thing all over again.
Yeah.
And they may create within themselves, but also in their environment, in the etheric field around them, not just within their own bodies, this atmosphere. So I had yeah, more than at least 10 situations in my career that people influence their own house in a negative way, for example, and the people within it. And they think it's something else, and it's an exterior thing. So yeah, I had one of the neighbors in this neighborhood not living next to me, and they said, "Can you help us?" And I went into one of the rooms, and she said, very nervously, uh, she said, "Yeah, this is the place. This is where it's happening." And I said, "Okay, well, leave me alone here, and I will tune into it." And I couldn't find anything, really nothing. It was actually a child's room with a few teddy bears, and it was a lovely, comfortable room to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And then the mother returned, and the whole atmosphere changed. So I had a
Wow.
good talk with her, and I said, "Have you ever considered that you are the one who opens the door?" And she said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, you're opening the door to what you are finding within this room. And because you bring that fear everywhere that you go. And why does it happen within this room?" And her fear was about her child.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, sometimes, well, sometimes all the time in these operations, you have to make also use common sense
Mm-hmm.
and to observe very closely the psyche of the person, and not just go head first into the idea, oh, it has to be an external entity, and all these fantastic ideas. But most of the time, it is not a possession, but an obsession of some kind.
Mm.
So a clinging on to a certain emotion, a field of experience and energy, which disrupts the person itself and often also the environment and certain places.
Mm-hmm.
That's an example there.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and then
And
of course the person has to be addressed and dealt with, and not
of course.
anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you will tell us, I imagine, a little bit more about, because there must be certain protocols as an exorcist. I'm gonna stop sharing the images
Yeah.
now.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
just to start our closing, but there must be some protocols that you must follow, no, as an exorcist, to know like what to do if it's like a psychological thing, or if it's really something more serious, what steps to take. No,
Mm.
like you don't rule out one or the other. You have to have a protocol to
No.
tell you exactly how you're going to figure out what to do, no?
Oh yeah. No. No. It's like going to hospital, and then you're being, you know, researched, assessed by um, this doctor, and he or she says, "Ah, well, I have looked at your kidneys. Now you have to
Mm,
go to another doctor, and I have to look at this." So you have to be very thoroughly um, uh, assessing a person, definitely on the psychological level. You need to know that it is not something uh, spiritual in the sense of an invading entity,
mm,
but in a lot of cases, it is much more psychological than spiritual.
yeah,
And that's a bit on the surface what I'm telling you now. But I think in the next program we can go into this, to the
yeah,
different forms of spiritual disturbance, and because you have different levels, not just obsession and possession, but you have different things,
mhm,
different categories as well, and what to do about it. And well, of course, what, for example, the tradition of the church has to say about it.
mhm,
But and you have different approaches to it as well,
yeah,
um, and that's very interesting. So I would love to continue with that. But
yeah.
yeah, I,
We have to pause because it's such a big theme, obviously, and we'll
yeah,
definitely
yeah,
continue with this. And just
yeah.
before we close officially, can you just tell us a little bit how long have you been an exorcist? Like, what is your experience? How many years have you been? working with this?
I'm a priest since 2002
Mhm.
and a bishop since 2004. And my exorcist initiation was around that time as well, 2004.
Wow, so over 20
Um,
years.
over 20 years. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So yeah, but again, the most of the examples that you see in movies are not very much representing reality. That's extreme stuff, and most of what you see in movies, you
It's
will not.
exaggerated.
It's exaggerated, yeah. But there are some more, let's say, spectacular examples, and yeah, they happen. But I haven't seen them personally, not in persons. But I most that I've seen is like haunted houses,
Okay.
even in some spiritual venues that I visited, um, and yeah, and messed up people psychologically. But then again, you can also help them through certain rites and certain advices or meditations.
Mhm.
Um, but the process is always about integration, not per se of expelling something or extracting something from the
Oh.
person. But most of the time, it's to get the right order again and to understand things, because most of our fear is based upon not knowing, about ignorance.
Mhm.
Um, so there, again, there's a lot to say about it. And yeah, to get back to your question, the most things that I have experienced is psychological disorder and obsession to certain emotions, certain ideas that basically don't have any evidence any longer in real life,
Mhm.
but within their psyche, it's still very much present.
Wow.
Those are the exorcist examples that I've seen most. Mm,
Okay.
yeah.
That's great. Well, I definitely want to know more about why you decided to get a formation as an exorcist, because like it takes a very special kind of personality and
Mm,
preparation and like psychic centeredness to be
yeah.
able to do this kind of work. Like, no, it's like it's not an easy thing to do. You have to be very centered.
Mm,
And also there's one question that I will leave for our next time. Also, you mentioned this person, you know that went to this concentration camp, and she was aware of
mm,
some activities still there, like real actual people
yeah.
who are still stuck there. And just wondering how much of a good idea is to want to intervene in places like this that may be
Mm,
haunted without really having been asked for that. Not like, oh, I feel something and I'm just gonna go and try to exercise
mm.
that by myself.
Yeah.
So
No,
maybe
that's a very,
we can talk about it
yeah.
next program. No, like you can tell
Please,
us.
please
I think that
remind me
would
of it.
be,
Very
yeah.
important.
I have to write it down because if not, I will forget. But there are so many questions that are gonna come
Yeah.
out, and I also want to say, synchronauts, when you're watching this, write down any questions you might have for Mike, and then write to me or write to him, and then we can bring them in our next recording. I don't know when you want to come back, Mike. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks from now. Maybe we can try.
Yeah, or maybe earlier to make sure that it is still around this time of the All
Yeah.
Souls and All Saints, but as soon as possible. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love it.
So yeah, let's continue. So I'm gonna upload this here on YouTube. So please leave us your comments. What else you would like to ask Mike about what we have talked about, or tell us your
Hmm,
experiences as well.
sure.
And so,
Yeah,
Mike, can you give us your information so that people can contact you on social media, or if they want to reach out to
yeah,
you, how they can do so, please?
yeah. My website is Circle of Avalon, one word, .nl, all in English, or KabbalahMysticalSchool.com. You can
Mhm.
find information there, or you search on my name, Mike Bais, or Circle of Avalon on Facebook, and I have some Instagram activity, not much, but that is the social media that I have. Or just give me an email if for anything else to do with Kabbalah or Roundtable or mystical Christianity to mikebais@rocketmail.com.
Okay, I'll write
Always
all of the
welcome.
information in the description of the video anyways. And please, if
Yeah.
you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, hit on the little bell so that every time we have a new program, you can come and check it out. And yeah, like let us know any questions you have, or if you want to share with us as well, any any of these occurrences, maybe you are a witness to any of these. Also, we would like to hear from you. And so, Mike, one last thought to close this first program, talking about the thinning of the veil and portals that we can open. Please, if you would be so kind.
Yes, like an advice, you mean?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, I would say, especially in these times, is to be very attentive through that field of experience, the etheric field, to what's going on next to you, because it's also a field of conditionings. It's reflecting what we already know. So I would like to invite everyone to every day again to be open from that field as if you are a baby, and again reaching out into the world to your neighbor, to what you're seeing on television, what's happening in the world. Because at this moment, our etheric collective field is quite chaotic. There's a lot going on. I don't have to tell anyone the examples, but to look with a new heart, a new eye from that etheric field, to feel again. Also, when you walk in the streets and to see what's happening there. That's a very good training, I would say.
Yeah.
And we need it.
Yeah, be more mindful of the present and how we relate to the
and to be
spaces
still.
Yeah.
Like I said, to be still, not chattering all the time, not have your opinions ready, your ordeals or judgments. Just to be still and see what comes in. It can be surprising what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Synchronous. Thank you so much, dear Mike. And so
My
we'll come back
pleasure.
very soon to continue with this topic. Hopefully, we will need just one more program, but who knows?
Yeah, and you never know with us.
But
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be back, and we really missed you. And so thank you again, Synchronauts, and we'll see each other very, very soon. Until next time, take care and enjoy this holiday season. Enjoy Halloween, Dia de Muertos, Samhain, or whatever you celebrate with your families. Do it in a mindful way, as Mike is telling us. And I think you can, if you put your heart into it, then you can re-signify whatever Hollywood has been selling to us about this time. No?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much. See you next time. Bye.
See you. Thank you.